everyone, welcome to Storytime. Today we are going to be talking about some of our favorite girl characters. So this is my girls rock story time, and I bet you're going to see some of your favorites on here. Does anybody out there take ballet? Do I have any ballerinas out there? Maybe I'm going to have boy ballerinas too, boy or girl ballerinas. So this could be boys rock ballerinas too. Okay, so our first character story today is a ballerina who probably likes to eat cheese. Any ideas? Angelina Ballerina. And this is Angelina on stage, and this is by Catherine Hullibird with illustrations by Helen Craig. Okay, let's find out about Angelina. Angelina's cousin Henry liked to go to her ballet lessons at Miss Lily's and join in the dancing. Henry always followed close behind Angelina, copying her graceful steps, but he wiggled and he wobbled, and he didn't look like a ballet dancer at all. Is he good? After each class, Angelina showed Henry the right way to do the pliés and arabesques and twirls. But Henry kept on dancing in his own funny way. Look at him. Then one day, Miss Lily received a letter from Mr. Popoff, the great musical director. "Angelina," said her ballet teacher, "how would you like to be a magic fairy in a real grown-ups ballet?" Angelina was thrilled. "Oh, yes," she cried. "It is called the Gypsy Queen," said Miss Lily excitedly. Then she turned to Henry. "Mr. Popoff needs a little elf too, and you are the perfect size." "Hooray!" shouted Henry. But Angelina just crossed her fingers for good luck, hoping he wouldn't do anything too silly. At rehearsals, Angelina learned to fly through the air with a special wire attached to her costume, so that she looked like a fairy floating down out of the sky. Henry was supposed to scamper through the woods below looking for the fairy, but he often got mixed up and he went the wrong way. Oh, poor guy. All the actors and actresses adored Henry anyway, and during the breaks, the lovely Madame Zizi gave him little treats in her dressing room. Then Mr. Popoff decided that Henry should say something on stage, and Angelina felt very jealous. Uh-oh. Everyone cheered when Henry came on stage and said in his little squeaky voice, "There goes my friend, the magic fairy!" But he was not so good at finding his way from the dressing room to the stage, and he was always getting lost. On the night of the first performance, everyone backstage was very excited. Angelina waited in the wings with her crown on and her wand ready as the audience crowded into the theater and the orchestra began to play. Madame Zizi glanced around nervously and said, "Oh dear, where is my little elf?" Uh-oh, where is he? Angelina ran wildly through the corridors, looking everywhere for Henry. Oh my goodness, where is he? And she bumped into him as he was running the wrong way down the hall. "I got lost again," Henry sobbed as Angelina grabbed his hand and they raced back to the stage. Angelina had her special wire fastened just in time. She soared up over the trees, waving her magic wand as Henry jumped out from the wings and skipped through the woods to the front of the stage. And there she is getting ready. Do you see that? With her she's getting attached. And there she goes, up above the stage. She is flying. Henry turned and saw the theater filled with lights and a sea of strange faces. He couldn't open his mouth. He just stared out at the audience. For an awful moment, nothing happened. "Oh no, Henry, what are you doing?" "Serves him right," thought Angelina, still feeling annoyed. But when she looked down on him and she saw how terrified Henry looked, she felt sorry for him. Angelina waved her magic wand and called into Henry in a loud, clear voice. "Hello, little elf, can you see me?" Henry looked up with relief and said, "There goes my best friend, the magic fairy." Aw, she was being a good friend. At the end of the show, Angelina and Henry took a curtain call with all the actors and actresses. The audience cheered and clapped, and the director thanked everyone for a wonderful performance. How many people were there watching? Wowee. Madame Zizi gave Angelina some of her own roses, and Mr. Popoff smiled at her and said, "You're a fine actress, and you'll have a speaking part too from now on." Angelina was so pleased that she took Henry by the hands and waltzed around the stage with him until they were both very dizzy. The end. I love Angelina Ballerina, and I love Henry too. I'm glad he was part of the show. He did just fine. And Angelina ended up being a really good friend to him, didn't she? Okay. All right. Are you ready for our next Girls Rock character? This is Nella, the Princess Knight. Do you guys watch Nella on TV? Yeah, she's on Nickelodeon, I think. All right. So this is by Mary Tilworth and illustrated by Dan Haskett and Brenda Goddard Lawrence. Princess Nella and her unicorn friend Trinket were dressed up and ready for the royal ball. "Whoa!" they exclaimed when they entered the ballroom. All the decorations were made of pure gold. Sir Garrett and Claude greeted them. Claude playfully nudged Trinket's colorful mane. "Love the hair," he said. "Well, I appreciate the compliment," said Trinket. "Now I have to go touch up my mane." And she trotted off to fix it. Smoke suddenly billowed into the ballroom. When it cleared, a man in a tall, pointy hat was standing there. "The wacky wizard is here," he declared. "It's showtime, so please give me a hand." He pulled out a giant glove. "Oh, never mind, I already have one." Nella laughed as the wizard performed his funny magic tricks. Trinket has to see this. She headed out to find her friend. But as soon as Nella was out of sight, the wizard trapped the royal guests in cages, and then he filled his hat with all the gold decorations. "You're supposed to be wacky, not mean," cried King Dad. The wizard chuckled. "My name isn't really Wackard Wizard. I'm Badolf, the Wicked Wizard." Oh no, this is not good. When Nella and Trinket returned to the ballroom, she saw that the wizard was gone and everyone was trapped. "Badolf has the only key to these cages," said King Dad. "His lair is really hard to get to," warned Sir Garrett. "First you have to climb Mount Move-A-Lot, and then you have to go through the cave of lava." Nella transformed into a princess knight and leapt onto Trinket. Nella and Trinket set off for Mount Move-A-Lot. When they reached the mountain, it seemed ordinary. "It's not even that tall," Nella said. "No problem." She leaned forward. "Galloping time, Trinket." The unicorn tossed her mane. "I love galloping hair. It's so dramatic," she said. There they are. Uh-oh. I don't know if it's going to be so easy. As Nella and Trinket raced up the mountain, it started to shake. "Everything on Mount Move-A-Lot moves," said one tree as it slid past them. "Mount Move-A-Lot is alive, and it doesn't like to be climbed. It tickles." Uh-oh. "Turn back now before things get rocky," warned a huge rock as it tumbled past. Nella shot a ribbon arrow, and she spun it onto a bridge, then led Trinket across it and over the rocks until they reached the end of the mountain. They had made it safely over Mount Move-A-Lot. Oh, good for them. Whew, that was a close call. Nella and Trinket journeyed on until they found the cave of lava. Inside, a giant river of lava boiled and bubbled. Nella pointed to some chunks of rock floating in the lava. "We can hop across on these rocks." "Are you sure about that?" Trinket asked nervously. "I'll guide you, Trinket." Nella pointed to a rock. "Hop onto that one now." Trinket took a deep breath and hopped. "Great job, Trink." Nella led her unicorn friend across the lava river, but as they neared the other side, they realized, oh no, they'd run out of rocks. Uh-oh, this isn't good either. "We're stuck!" cried Nella. Trinket tossed her mane. But the good news is that Lava Hair looks fantastic. Yeah, it's really windy out here, Nella paused. That's it. We can sail across the lake. She held up her sword and magically made more ribbon, which transferred into a sail. Then she stepped onto her shield. All aboard the shield ship, she announced. Using the makeshift boat, Nella and Trinket sailed across the river. Nella and Trinket galloped on until they reached Badolph's castle. Imkins appeared in the doorway. Hello, they chimed. They're adorable, said Trinket. She hugged one. Come on, Nella, you gotta get in on this. They're so poofy. Nella smiled. All right. Nella knelt to hug the Imkins. As she did, one of them pulled off her pendant. Her sword, shield, and armor instantly disappeared. Nella gasped. My knightly tools, they're gone. Laughing, the Imkins disappeared with Nella's pendant. Oh, no. These darn Imkins. Nella and Trinket chased the Imkins into Badolph's treasure room. He was waiting for them. Poof. He locked Nella and Trinket in a hanging cage. We will get out of here, Nella shouted as Badolph hung the key on the wall. Not without your pendant. That's what makes you brave and powerful, Badolph ordered the Imkins to stand guard, and he left to figure out just how the pendant worked. The Imkins soon dozed off, and Nella groaned. Without my knightly tools, I'm not sure what to do. You'll think of something, said Trinket. Maybe Badolph's right. My pendant is what makes me brave and powerful. She slumped against the cage. Trinket slumped, and the cage started to sway. Wait, said Nella. If we rock the cage back and forth, we might be able to reach the key. She ran from one side to the other, making it rock more. Trinket joined in, and the cage swung across the room. Nella reached for the key and, got it, she cried. Nella unlocked the cage, and they were free. But Trinket knocked over a pile of treasure and woke the Imkins. One of the Imkins had a thorn in his paw. Nella knelt and pulled out the thorn, and the Imkin gave her a hug. We need to stop the wizard. Will you help us? Nella asked. They nodded. Friend, 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 they cried. Well, that's good. Now they're going to help. The Imkins rushed into Badolph's room. One picked up a glass shoe and tossed it to the others. That's not a toy, Badolph cried. Magic shoes are very hard to find, especially in my size. As he dove for the shoe, he dropped Nella's pendant. She swooped in and grabbed it. My heart is bright. Time to be a princess knight. Nella's armor and knightly tools reappeared. Thank goodness. Nella used her sword to wrap the wizard in a ribbon cage. She saw that he had the key to the cages back at her castle. She told Trinket to grab it while the Imkins gathered the treasure Badolph had stolen from the royal ball. Nella and her friends were ready to return home. Go ahead, leave me here, shouted Badolph. I'll get you next time, you and your little unicorn too. Nope, Nella magically undid the ribbon cage. I'm letting you go, Badolph. Why? The wizard asked, surprised. Because everyone deserves a second chance. You were really funny as the wacky wizard, so I know there's good in you too. Nella turned to her friends. Now, let's get back to that castle. In her castle's ballroom, Nella used the magic key to free everyone. Thanks to Nella, we can get this party started, said King Dad. The music played and Nella began to dance. She was ready to have fun, and so were all the royal guests. The end. I have never seen Nella the Princess Knight on TV. I think I'm going to have to watch a show. Do you like Nella? She seems pretty cool. I like her a lot. I like how she transforms. Okay. So, for our final girls rock character, one of your favorites, and my favorites too. She likes fancy words. She has curly red hair. Can you guess who it is? Fancy Nancy! All right. So this is Fancy Nancy and the Late, Late, Late Night. And this is based on the creation of Jane O'Connor and Robin Price Glasser. Okay. Here we go. I adore visiting my neighbor, Mrs. Devine. Here we are having a tea party on her veranda. That's a fancy word for a porch. When she was a child, Mrs. Devine had lived in Hollywood. She used to see lots of movie stars, only Mrs. Devine calls them celebrities. Isn't that fancy? She has a special scrapbook of photographs. Some are autographed. That means celebrities signed them. Your scrapbook is extremely fascinating, I say. Fascinating is even more interesting than the word interesting. Ooh la la! Mrs. Devine says I can borrow her scrapbook if I bring it back tomorrow. Merci, 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 I say. At home, I pretend that I'm a Hollywood celebrity. I dress up in my most glamorous attire. That is fancy for clothes. I give my autograph to all my fans. I pose for photographs. I am late for a glamorous Hollywood party, I tell my fans. Au revoir. You say it like this. Au revoir. That's French for goodbye. On my door, I put up a sign that says, do not disturb, because celebrities need their privacy. I went to look through Mrs. Devine's scrapbook, but I hear my dad calling us all to dinner. Ugh. After dinner, I learn all my spelling words. I'm practically an expert at spelling. Before I know it, Mom says, Nancy, time for bed. Oh no, I haven't had a second look at the scrapbook. I beg my mom to let me stay up later, but Mom says no. It's a school night. Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow you can stay up late. I put on my nightie and get into bed. My parents kiss me goodnight. Sleep tight, they say. But guess what? I'm not going to sleep. Under the covers I have concealed, that's fancy for hidden, a flashlight and the scrapbook. I stay up very late. It's almost 10 o'clock when I put away the scrapbook and turn off my flashlight. I bet even celebrities don't stay up this late. The next morning when my dad wakes me up, I am exhausted. Exhausted is even more than tired. At recess, I'm too exhausted to jump rope with Bree and my friends. I miss 3 of the words on my spelling list because my brain is exhausted too. Oh no, poor Nancy. After school, I return Mrs. Devine's scrapbook. She asks if I would like to stay for dinner and watch a movie called National Velvet. It's on TV tonight. It's about a girl and a horse. I loved it when I was your age, she says. It sounds fascinating, but I can hardly keep my eyes open. I go home and start weeping, which is fancy for crying. When my dad asks what was wrong, I confess I was naughty. I stayed up all late last night and I had a terrible and exhausting day. My dad doesn't scold me. He says, now you understand why you need a good night's sleep. That night, I go to bed even earlier than my sister. On Saturday, I wake up feeling glorious again. Glorious is fancy for wonderful. And guess what? Mrs. Devine taped the movie for me. I can see it tonight. Dad was right. Even fancy girls need their beauty rest. The end. I'll tell you what, I love bedtime. Do you guys like bedtime? Oh, I love it so much. I like getting cozy in my pajamas and getting in bed, and I snuggle with my dogs and I read a good book. I love bedtime. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed our Girls Rock Story Time, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.